Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
This is Mr. Chris Claremont, a legend.
Melanie goes,
Tired.
how's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for my advanced look at the death of Captain Mar-Vell Omnibus, or the Captain Mar-Vell Classic Era Omnibus Volume 2 from Mar-Vell Comics. So let's go ahead and look at this book together. And welcome back, everybody. Before going any further, a big thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Mar-Vell for sending us an advance copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and book market on October 7th or 8th, depending on where you get your books. What we are looking at here is the standard edition cover. This is the one that's going to be available everywhere. It's the one supplied by Jeff Aiklin. On the left-hand side is your direct market cover supplied by Jim Starlin. And that's only available at places like cheapgraphicnovels.com, bdcosmos.com, waltzcomicshop.com, comicsbugle.com, forbiddenplanet.com, organicpricebooks.com, DCBS, In-Stock Trades, Diary Collectors, Read Comics, and of course your local comic book store. Everything else underneath the dust jacket is the same. So bringing it back to this, the death of Captain Mar-Vell, Steve Englehart, Scott Edelman, Doug Minch, Jim Starlin, Al Milgrom, Pat Broderick, taking the top billing right there. And looking at the spine with the Mar-Vell Omnibus logo, death of Captain Mar-Vell, and then those names, or the last names rather. And then that image of Mar-Vell, and then the back of the book right here, cosmic, tragic, and historically heroic. The saga of the original Captain Mar-Vell comes to an end. Well, yeah, with a title like that, there's really nothing I can do about the spoiler. I guess I don't have to talk about how it happens. Now, before I take the dust jacket off, let's go ahead and put it on the shelf where it belongs, right after Volume 1, and thus ends the era of Mar-Vell as Captain Mar-Vell. But then there are other collections that collect other versions of Captain Mar-Vell. We still need a Monica Rambeau collection. I would love that. She's my favorite. She's my second favorite Captain Mar-Vell, right after, of course, Janice Fell. But this is the original Mar-Vell, and this is his story and how it comes to an end. Now, this could have been called Captain Mar-Vell Volume 2, and a lot of people were wondering why they decided to change the title. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe the sales of Volume 1 weren't really strong, and they thought, well, if we call it Volume 2, it's not going to sell nearly as much, so maybe we'll just change the title. That's just my guess, but I'm not 100% sure. Let's look underneath the dust jacket. F comes for Cosmic Legend here on the left-hand side. On the right is bio on the creators. And then we have this classic logo, Death of Captain Mar-Vell Omnibus. The title right here. And then it's the same thing that you see on the spine, actually. And then, of course, the logo, the big star on his chest. All right, let's go ahead and get this open and talk about the stories found in here, look at this artwork, and then look at the build of the book as well. Okay, let's go ahead and get this opened. Death of Captain Mar-Vell, what it collects, and the top billing right there. And then your credits over here, like Jim Starlin, Steve Englehart, Scott Edelman, Al Milgrom, Doug Minch, taking the top billing as the writers. But you also have people like Chris Claremont in here, Jerry Conway, Bill Mantlo, Archie Goodwin. Pencilers and layouts like Jim Starlin and Al Milgrom, Pat Broderick. You also have Alfredo Alcala and Frank Miller. Inkers and finishers like Jack Abel and Bernie Wrightson. Steve Ditko, some big names. Letterers over here like Tom Orzechowski and John Costanza and Karen Mantlo. And colors like Glennis Wein and Klaus Janson and Al Wenzel. Table of contents right here, where you're going to find each and every one of these issues, and there are page numbers, rest assured. And then it is broken down into 3 different sections, and that is because this is collecting the Marvel Masterworks Captain Marvel 4, 5, and 6. We have an introduction from Steve Englehart right here, telling you a little bit about the stories that are to come, and then what his role was in all of this. So collected in this particular book is Captain Marvel 34 through 62, Marvel Spotlight 1 through 4, and number 8, Avengers Annual number 7, Marvel 2-in-1 Annual number 2, Marvel Graphic Novel number 1, and material from Marvel Superheroes number 3, What If 17, and What If number 14. The book has 920 pages and retails for $125. So some of the things that have happened recently in Captain Marvel's life, I guess spoilers, by the way. We have an introduction of Nitro. That character will become really important in the life and, of course, death of Captain Marvel, but I'm not going to go into details as to exactly how. Also a big player in the Acts of Vengeance with Rob Liefeld's New Mutants. No, I'm just kidding. A big player in the Civil War storyline. But during this time, it's very important to note that Rick Jones and Captain Marvel have to switch in and out of the negative zone because of the quantum bands. If Captain Marvel is to be let out, Rick Jones has to be in the negative zone. So that's what's important to note here at the very beginning. That's something that happened in the previous volume, and it's not something that actually stays throughout the whole thing. So the first, issues in here are all about Nitro. Eventually, Jim Starlin does end up leaving the book, though, and we have to have a new artist. And while they look for a new artist, we have Alfredo Alcala stepping in to do this issue right here against the Living Laser. And then we have this reprint right here. This reprints issue number 12 of Marvel Superheroes, but what's really cool is that we have these pages right here that are kind of like the bookend to the reprint. So they added some pages and those are in there, and letter pages are all intact. What this era of Captain Marvel really feels like, this is the team up with Ant-Man. It's like almost like a monster of the week type of story. It's going back to its basics, like the true root of who Captain Marvel is. So we take him up to space, and we see his ties back to the Kree Empire. There's a big Watcher. I think it's the Trial of the Watcher. It's like a big trilogy that happens through here. And it shows us the intent of the Watchers. And, of course, Uatu, the most popular Watcher in the Marvel Universe. Carol still plays a big supporting role, but it's kind of taking... she's kind of back in the shadows again because of everything with Rick Jones and then going up into space. And we have the return of this guy right here, Ronan the Accuser, and the Supreme Intelligence. As a matter of fact, the Supreme Intelligence actually plays a big part in this last arc that's in here. It kind of leads up to this and what his big master plan is. We have characters like the Stranger, a lot of cosmic characters you're going to be seeing through here. Characters that appeared previously in the Avengers and, of course, X-Men. We have Drax making a return. And Rick Jones, ever being the playboy that he is, will be falling in love with different women through here. Like, I think this is Fallen, if I'm not mistaken. She sticks around for a little bit. They go through different planets. And it's him and Rick Jones almost like coming at odds with each other. And there is going to be a big change by the time you get into the second story arc. This is where him and Rick kind of have had enough of each other and they start fighting each other. So then you've got characters in here like, this is, what is his name? Rambo. He's part of the Cyborg Army. And then you have Fallen right here, who is one of the last Gammon, and then the Supreme Intelligence. This kind of wraps up that particular storyline. Now, we do have a new era. This is the Jerry Conway era right here, and you have Bill Mantlo actually doing some of the co-plotting through here. So these issues right here are going to be written by Jerry Conway, just taking over. And then we do get a new editor-in-chief as well through here. Al Milgrom still coming in to do the art. So Al Milgrom actually doing some of the co-plotting with the Steve Englehart run. So like during Steve Englehart's era, you had Al Milgrom actually co-plotting. You can kind of tell the tone of the stories when they take a turn, like more like a comedic turn than the most serious stories that I think Steve Englehart wanted to focus on. Then we have the Scott Edelman era. Al Milgrom still supplying a lot of the artwork through here. But I think Scott Edelman comes, I think in the introduction, they talk about, this is the Logan's Run issue. They talk about how he came from like a sci-fi magazine. But then again, Steve Englehart had also been published at a young age and writing magazine articles. This is Mercurio, the 4D man, and teaming up with the Avengers. So like we had the big anniversary issue, which showed the big fight against the Super Adaptoid, and then the Avengers getting involved, and they stick around for a little bit. And eventually, you do have Al Milgrom being inked by Terry Austin. I think Terry Austin during this time was a little bit of a newcomer. We've got introductions here to characters like Dr. Minerva. You've got the Inhumans now coming back into the fold, and then you have the return of Nitro through these pages. Pat Broderick will be the ongoing artist here towards like the last part of this run. This is some of the Jim Starlin stuff in here. That is the big Thanos storyline that has been collected in many different formats in the past. It's a big story arc that brings the character of Thanos into the, I guess, in a way, kind of showcasing just how badass he is to the rest of the Earth. Because we have already seen like the cosmic side of things with the Iron Man issues, but this is like the Avengers and the Fantastic Four, and of course Mar-Vell getting involved, trying to put a stop to him. Now, this is where they do put a stop to him. And they also, unfortunately, get rid of the character of Adam Warlock for a while. This is the character of Death Grip right here. And now you have Pat Broderick coming in, doing the pencils in here. You have some fill-in stuff in by Doug Minch and Jim Shooter, and also Chris Claremont. Archie Goodwin does some of the fill-in stuff. And now we are changing a little bit of the connection between Rick Jones and that of Captain Marvel. So he's almost like free of Rick Jones. And this right here, I think, is some of my favorite stuff, because in this book, there was a lot I hadn't read. Like, most of the stuff, of course, with Thanos I've read. But the stuff in here where he's teaming up with the character of Drax, these Doug Minch issues, and he's going around different planets and different worlds. He ends up going into this one particular planet and meeting a very important lady through here. And that lady, of course, will play a big part in the main story arc or the graphic novel #1, and that is the character of Elysius. And she's found through here in this, like, almost like a fantasy planet. Yeah, this right here. The Mistress of the Paradise. Now, her and Mar-Vell will start developing a relationship, but it's really cool because I had never read these issues before. I've had collections like this in the past. I never really had, like, the Marvel Masterwork stuff, and most of these collections just focus on Jim Starlin's books. But there hasn't been collections of Mar-Vell stories like this collected outside of the Masterworks. I don't think we even got the Marvel Essentials. Now, what does end up happening is that the series does get canceled after issue number 62. So this is the last issue right there with the big fight against Stellarax. But it ends on a cliffhanger. So what they did, Roger Stern actually talks about this in his introduction, because he was editor at the time, was relaunched Marvel Spotlight just to feature kind of like these stories that were wrapping up the main story arc that ended in issue number 62. So you get the rest of Doug Minch's story with Pat Broderick on artwork in here. And then later on, you get like the Steve Ditko stuff in here from other issues. Like this is the Archie Goodwin's issue right here. This starts a new little storyline. It's a kind of one and done. And then you have the Mike W. Barr with Frank Miller in here. So they are collecting everything, or yeah, all the stories that feature Mar-Vell. And of course, the big story in here is the title of the book, with Marvel graphic novel #1. Man, what a morbid way to kick off this new line. And here we are with the death of Captain Marvel. I have talked about this, I think maybe a year ago, whenever I reviewed the gallery edition, I went into some spoiler territory because I think it's just a well-known storyline. And it's such a powerful story in the way that it's handled. I mean, yes, we do have to talk about the death of Captain Mar-Vell. I'm not going to tell you how he dies or what it has to do with Nitro, but I think it's such a shocking moment as it happens because it's one of the most realistic deaths, I think, that is done in comics. Not because he hasn't been brought back yet. Who knows, maybe one day, maybe by the time you're watching this video 5 years from now, you're like, what the hell are you talking about, Omar? Mar-Vell's been back for 2 years. Ugh. We used to say Bucky dead. So, anyway. It's just the way that he died. So tragic and so true to life that it still hits. I am going to show one, the last, it's not the last page, but it's the splash page. It's not a spoiler, I promise. I'm censoring the final page. But I wanted to point out, I always love pointing out that this guy right here, this alien with his boots and his red cape and that very, very significant haircut right behind Wolverine even makes it into cameo right there for the Mar-Vell graphic novel #1. I thought that was really cool. Then you get the what if stories. What if Captain Mar-Vell had remained a villain? And what if Captain Mar-Vell had not died? That cover right there by Ron Lim. Those have been collected before in the classic Captain Mar-Vell, or Captain What If Omnis. And then you have the covers here for Giant Size, which is a reprint, the Foom stuff, and let's look at some of this extras right here. The Bicentennial. By the way, there is a Bicentennial issue, and I thought it was a pretty cool way of sneaking in the 1776 Bicentennial in there. And then original cover art, right there from Jim Starlin, Al Milgram, George Tuska. This is the unused page for Captain Mar-Vell #54. And man, I love these introductions, by the way. I cherish these introductions. So this is how it ended. And apparently they had found this Cockrum splash page that was supposed to be in the old collections, and they just used it for the ending here in issue #54. But this is the way they had intentionally, originally wanted to end it, which is a big fight between Wonder Man and Captain Mar-Vell was to come. You'll even have Wonder Man and Rick Jones interacting in here in this issue. So that is interesting that they didn't use that, or why they didn't use it. But in the introduction, nobody can remember why exactly. And more original art from the covers and internal pages. And Thanos War Plate right there from the Mar-Vell Team Up portfolio. The handbook of the Marvel Universe. Not just Captain Mar-Vell, but other cosmic characters like Mentor and the Kree. You do get the the 3 universe, or the 3 worlds war. That's what it is, with Earth and the Kree and the Skrulls. And then different collections over the years, including some of the stuff in this Infinity Origins Omni. All right, let's look at the build. 920 pages. Sewn binding. This one is printed at the iMac printer, so I wanted to come back here. There's a little bit of bleed through happening, even though the paper stock seems thicker than it used to be. And I wanted to show, yes, right here, the type of gutter loss right here, which is very minimal. But if you saw that eye, that looks so different than the eye from long ago. From not that long ago, rather. From the iMac printer. It used to be like really flat or a tiny eye. Now we actually have some shape down there. But that's what this is. This is Captain Mar-Vell, the classic era Omnibus Volume 2, or the death of Captain Mar-Vell Omnibus. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price.
They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, the build of this book, and of course where it fits into the reading order of Captain Marvel. But this is it. This wraps up this era of Mar-Vell. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read these issues. There were a lot of issues in here that I've never read because I didn't pick up the Masterworks, and I don't think they've released any other kind of collections outside of the ones that I've showed already, like the Life and Death of Captain Marvel. But it was really interesting to read this and then where it kind of heads into that graphic novel #1. That's it, everybody. Stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.